Welcome to Queer Conversation. In the virtual studio with me today is Laneikka Denne. Laneikka is a playwright and producer and is showing her latest play, FEMINAZI, as part of World Pride and as one of two lesbian-led plays at the Belvoir Theatre. So why don't you tell us what this play is all about, Laneikka?
Absolutely. The title is one that gets everyone because I think people have a lot of ideas of what that word means and where they've heard it before. But its history, and the reason that the play is called that is because that is a word that men have used against anyone who isn't cis male identifying for like hundreds and hundreds of years. And I sort of just got obsessed with this idea of someone that we watch on stage that isn't a cis man, that is an anti-hero, and what that would sort of look like in a queer space and what that would look like within lesbian territory, and just started dabbling with this idea of what would it be for someone to be a self-proclaimed feminazi in order to like entirely like oppose men and oppose any ideas that they put on them by reclaiming them. And I got really interested in this anti-hero that was reclaiming this title. And the whole play just sort of like sprawled from there, being about what would this sort of person who calls themselves a feminazi do, and what actually is their journey that's come to them having this sort of idea. And then when we got into the nitty-gritty of the play, it's very much set in the internet. So all of it's from the perspective of Zan, who is the self-proclaimed feminazi within their algorithm within the internet. So they're calling all the shots in the play. We're sort of following this journey going, oh my God, like this is a little bit problematic. This is really problematic. What's happening? We hear a few points where we're like, do we have queer bias within ourselves? Do we think some of these things, even though we're from the LGBT community or the hetero community, et cetera, and where does this come from? Before we're actually met with like the real meaning of the play, which is that it's actually a gender crisis, and it's all perpetrated by not feeling right in their queerness and not feeling valid within their idea of being like women are everything, and I'm this self-proclaimed feminazi who's setting out to kill all men to save all women, that sort of thing, and realizing that they don't really identify with the idea of femininity or womanhood that they supposedly encourage and support. So yeah, it's a huge work. I also think it's a really important work for gender crisis and that sort of stuff. That's something that's been really prevalent within my life, and the people around me are all going through these huge gender crises because of heteronormativity and that sort of stuff, and just seeing how much heteronormativity, even within our queer world, still perpetrates our life and makes life hard and makes us think weird things because we just don't feel like we fit right anywhere. So it's a play that I hope really expands the idea of queerness.
It is about, or you're talking about your generation Z.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a gender crisis that your generation is going through, which I don't understand. Can you explain that to me?
It's actually it's very Gen Z in its entirety. It's sort of like this new crisis of queerness where we have all these labels and language to finally articulate things that like androgyny that has existed for hundreds and hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, and things like that are now starting to come to the like surface, where we can start using some of these terms and identifying in certain ways, but also all of the crisis and all of the things that come with doing that. And even from other parts of the queer community, some people are like, these are great and like I love these terms. Other people like they don't exist. I've even found in promoting this play, like we're having a lesbian and non-binary folks night where anyone who feels like they identify as either of those or anywhere in between, it's not like a parameter thing, can come and see the play and have a panel after and that sort of thing. And even in advertising that, I've had a few people who identify as lesbians be like, non-binary people, who are they? They're not allowed to like be in our space. Because I feel like within all the trauma that everyone in the queer community has gone through in their own different ways that I can't speak for, it's like we're all a little hurt and we don't want anyone taking up our space within our queer space. And I felt that to be really prevalent. And I really hope that this play just makes us go, oh, we all have these weird queer biases. We shouldn't have any of this. Like, we should just love each other for whatever type of queer we are and sort of come together instead of constantly like bringing others down. There was a comment in a lesbian group. It was like, non-binary, ha ha ha, why would they be here? And I just think that's really awful. And I think it just shows that like this is still where people's heads are at. And yeah, I think Gen Z, which I think is the point of the play, are much more open to people just exploring who they are within their queerness, and that that's totally okay. But I think even within that, it could just still be so much more expanded. And I think within older generations, seeing Gen Z, because of all the history and queer trauma that everyone in older generations and to this day has gone through, it would be hard to see people sort of like evolve the word queer and evolve what it is to be now. And in some places it can be a lot easier to be queer now than it once was. To me, it's an overwhelming inequality within queerness that from either side, your queerness is more valid than mine, which I think to me is the real point of the play, is that all queerness is valid, and that all of this arguing and like seeing who is better and all the inequality is literally just caused by heteronormativity and it putting us all in competition with each other and like who is more valid, and making sure that LGBT is still out there and people still know that this whole community is valid. But I feel like heteronormativity puts us all against each other, like we all have to be more valid than the other, if that makes sense. And I just really hope that this work shows us that that is, as it is satirical, it is silly that we would want to kill all the men in the world. It is silly that we would want to put someone above the other person, and that really we just need to evolve, that all of it is beautiful. Queer is just however you identify in whatever moment that is. And I think that's really lovely about Gen Z starting to come to that.
Can a non-binary lesbian exist?
Well, that was the question that actually sparked the play. I thought that that was a ridiculous question because I said, of course, from my Gen Z, and that I actually, like, I'm very much like, everyone is valid. However you would identify and experience is how you identify and experience. But I couldn't believe the responses from other queer people and also a lot of heteronormativity people. This play is not a play to put queer people down. It's to put heteronormativity people down for making queer people have to fight against each other. But I couldn't believe in that post how many people said, no, that doesn't work, because if you're a lesbian, then you're only dedicated to women. But then we get into this bigger discussion of what is it to be a woman? Does that mean it's to be cis? And then that's ableist culture, to be able to say to someone that you have to be a cis woman in order for like a lesbian to like you. And that means that they would have to be cis. And it's like, it just all seems a bit silly that even within the queer community, because of heteronormativity, we're having these arguments. It should just be, if you identify as a non-binary lesbian and they're the words that make you emotionally feel seen, and that's how you experience the world, that's how you experience the world.
And you said before, is there a panel after each play, or is it only on a particular day?
So there's a queer youth and queer parent night where it's a night where there is a panel afterwards that's presented by Wear It Purple and Rainbow Families. And it's a panel of all the queer things you wish you could ask the younger generation versus like an older generation or a parent. And it's supposed to be an event where queer people of like both generations can speak to what they wish the other generation knew and speak to more about different things that we just don't get to talk about with other queer people. And then there is another panel that is on the lesbian and non-binary folks night. And that panel is presented by N Queer. And it is a panel on what is the meaning of lesbian now, which I just think is a huge question after this play. And we also have the Drag Kings Australia, who will be greeting guests, taking photos with them, and just doing some amazing drag king performance art, because when do we get to see drag kings? Never. So it's really nice to be able to include a bunch of other different people in this to make it more about community and make it more about conversations and starting them from this play.
Fantastic. And who is performing? Is it a one-woman show?
It is it's a one-person show with a secondary person, which sounds very silly, but it is mainly a one-person show. And it is performed by an actor called Ziggy Resnick and another actor called Shane DeGroot.
You know what? I really love the panels, and I really love that you put on an intergenerational panel, because those intergenerational discussions are so super important for our community. And
absolutely.
I don't know if there is much out there throughout Worldwide on intergenerational. There isn't. So, if anybody is interested in that topic, make sure to check out Laneikka's play.
Absolutely. Queer Youth and Queer Parent Night. Come to that and talk.
Do you know the dates, or people can just look it up?
Tuesday, 28th of Feb for Queer Youth and Queer Parent Night, and March 8th for Lesbian and Non-Binary Folk Night. Both panels will be amazing.
So apart from, getting involved with that thinking process, what is there something very specific that you hope people take away?
I really hope it just starts conversation on what does it mean to be queer now. And I really hope it builds acceptance from people, and that they see that we all have, from both heteronormative and queer communities, we all have bias within ourselves, and that doesn't have to be a hard thing to swallow or a thing where you have to lash out at someone. It's literally just bias. And if we work out what we are ignorant to and what we need to learn about more and what we need to accept more, we can just build a really nicer world, and just make sure that everyone in the queer community and that our hetero allies start doing it too, just feel nice and warm. So I really hope it just starts a conversation on what does it mean to be queer now.
I'm sure it will, especially on those panel nights, because, that's always very interesting to hear different people's thoughts on a topic like that. Well done. That sounds like a really exciting play at the Belvoir, launching on the 22nd. Thank you for joining Queer Conversation, Laneikka, and all the best with the play.
You too.